Steve, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing today, man?
Johnny, how you doing?
I'm
Happy to
doing
be
excellent,
here.
brother.
Pleasure to be here. You're in Vegas?
I'm over here in Vegas. Been living here about 6 years, originally from New Jersey,
Oh,
which we'll
really?
get into, in a
What part
little
of
bit.
town? What part of town you live in?
I lived in Roselle Park, which is very near Elizabeth, Newark area.
Now, what about in Vegas?
In Vegas, I'm in North Vegas. I live about 15 minutes from the Strip.
I know Vegas better than I know New Jersey, believe me.
Well, you did some bookings out there, right?
I worked there. I worked there since I moved there in 1980, 79, 80, before you were born, probably. And it was a small town. It was a good town then, man. I know everyone says that bullshit, but it was just a small town. There was only 350,000 people there. Now it's millions. But my wife was born there. My kids were born there. The last house, I built a big house on Windmill in Bermuda, down that way near the South Point. I bought an acre of land in 1987, and my time in Vegas was fantastic. I enjoyed it very much back then. I go back once a year. I still got a bunch of friends there, but I've been gone now, quite a while.
That South Point area is a really nice area down there.
Yeah, it's one of the few. It's not that developed, and the land that I bought an acre back then. It was 25 grand, and it was it's zoned for horses, so people are still riding horses down the block. It's the one part of it is not that developed. It's still, the one piece, a little bit of the old Vegas is out there. Horses, barns, all that shit. Not that I had a horse, but
Well, that's what I like about Vegas. It's very different from, the East Coast where I'm originally from. And it's very open, like you were saying. And they're still trying to build out there, but there's still a lot of land and all that. I just want to say congratulations on the Talking Sopranos podcast. What an amazing podcast, brother. You and Michael, the honesty you guys share is incredible. The humor, the stories, the insight, can you tell me about how that podcast came about?
Someone approached us like maybe in January about doing one, and we had never thought about it. I never did, and certainly not a soprano one. I was approached a few years ago by a big radio station. They were getting into it, and I didn't want to do anything with the Sopranos. I just, and then me and Michael started talking, and we see that a lot of younger people are listening in the podcast generation, and I've done a bunch of them, but to be honest, I've never listened to them ever. So, and then I realized that there was a lot of people with soprano podcasts that had nothing to do with the show. I said, what the fuck do they know about the show? They're talking about what they're reading. And there was a lot of those. So we decided to do it. We were supposed to be in a studio together in New York, in the East Village. And then the pandemic hit. And both of us were bummed. I mean, the world's coming to an end. It's like, what the fuck? Who cares about the Sopranos? We got bigger fish to fry. And there had been an announcement came out in February. So then people started contacting us on social media. Come on, I could use this. I'm rewatching the show. Come on, guys. So, after 2-3 weeks or so, we both were going a little crazy. I was in New York at the time, and Michael was out in California. We started doing it, and we're doing a rewatch. We're right now in season 2, episode 3 is coming up Monday.
Right. And episode 2 was the first appearance of Bobby Bacala.
Bobby shows up finally. Bobby finally shows up. So, we do a rewatch. We run through. Now, Michael wrote 5 episodes, so he's much more in tune with a lot of stuff. I watch it more as a viewer. I kind of do the play-by-play, and he does the color commentating, and he knows everything, the music and the background, and Tony's wearing this color shirt, and Melfi's wearing that shirt. Shit that goes by me. I'm getting better at it. But so what we do is we haven't watched the show in 20 years. And so what I do is I usually on a Monday, I watch the show, take notes, takes a couple hours, stop and go, transcribe the notes Tuesday. Uh, we usually do the podcast Thursday. I rewatch it again with no notes, just watch it before we get on the air. And we also talk about the business. We talk about stuff that went behind the scenes, stuff jogs your memory. We talk about jobs we've had before we were actors. We talk about, listen, it's like me and him having lunch. It's just two buddies. We're close friends for 20 years. It's just the two of us, whatever comes out. Sometimes we veer off. We get back to the episode, but we've had some great guests, Edie Falco and Henry Bronstein, and the casting directors, and Robert Eiler and Jamie Lynn Sigler. Coming up, we have Lorraine Bracco. We have coming up Terry Winter, who wrote 25 episodes. Big Pussy's coming. David Proval's coming. So that's in season 2. Artie Bucco, the chef. So, I think people are liking it. It seems to be a great response,
Oh, we're loving it. And I'm going to tell you this. The first inception that I had listening to the show, my first response was, like you said, it's like you and him, Michael, sitting at a lunch table and just hanging out and just shooting the shit, because you guys give so much honesty, and you guys really tell the tale of what it was like to be on the show, or experiences you had with other people in the entertainment business. Outside of the podcast, what else have you been doing to pass the time during the pandemic? Are you watching any TV shows?
John, I'll be honest with you. It's a good thing that this came up, because I don't know. I was in New York for the first 2 months. I was shooting Blue Bloods. I've been on Blue Bloods for 5 years. And we were shooting, and they shut us down March 13th. We were 2.5 episodes to go. And then I was just holed up in the apartment with my wife and my daughter. My other daughter lives with her fiance in Greenwich Village. And we were there, man. And it was, I went out an hour a day for a walk. And then once we started doing this, we did a lot of press. And we still are doing a lot of press. I mean, from all over the world. I mean, I think we're doing The Guardian from the UK on Monday. And we did Joe Rogan's podcast. We've done, we got Craig Fitzsimmons. We've done the Wall Street Journal, on and on and on. So that's kept us pretty busy promoting this show, letting people know it's on the air. And we could tell by the first episode that new people are finding it, thousands of new people are finding it every week. So really, that's it. I read a lot. I'm not that much of a TV guy, to be honest. I don't like TV that much. But I watch some TV, some documentaries. I've been reading a bunch, and I'm in California now. I came out here. I go for a walk. 5 days a week.
Your timing could not be more perfect with your podcast, because right now the Sopranos, I think, is one of the most heavily downloaded and watched streaming shows, and rightfully so. Like, let's face facts.
Hold on, John. Do you hear the horn honking?
Yeah, what is that?
It's just wait a second. Somebody outside somewhere.
No worries. I could clip that out. No worries.
Yeah, they're gone.
Okay. But that's one of the most downloaded shows right now, and rightfully so, because the characters, the casting of that show, and just the charm of it, it's just remarkable, man.
Well, listen, the one thing that I saw watching the show, right? So it holds up. Besides the cars and the phone and obviously the computers, I mean, it holds up like it was done yesterday. It's not dated. You know, some shows you watch, you go, oh, that's fucking dated. Oh, you know, I mean, here it's brilliant. The writing is absolutely brilliant. It's funny. That's the thing I notice even more, how funny it is. Even though of course, I've seen all the shows, but it's funny. The Melfi stuff I enjoy more, maybe because I'm older. Uh, Uncle Junior has the funniest lines. I mean, it's just really brilliant. The casting, of course, David Chase put this group of guys and girls together. Most of us are from the same background, kind of. Mostly everybody was from the East Coast, and you know, Italian American. You know, most of us, not everyone, grew up. You know, Jersey, Brooklyn, New York, you know, Westchester, like all in that area. Uh, so it's pretty amazing as far as that goes. I mean, new people are finding the show every day, and it's, you know, it's a little bittersweet because a lot of the people are no longer with us. You know, obviously Jim for sure, right? But there's quite a bit of the actors have passed away. You know, so it's kind of bittersweet, but I look forward to it. I look forward to it. I don't have to take the fucking notes, but I could just enjoy it, and it jogs my memory a lot. Like going, oh shit, I remember that day, or I remember that, or didn't that happen? So uh, that's what's happening, you know.
Oh, it certainly does. Like you're talking about the memory. Like I remember the first time I saw the episode Pine Barrens, right?
Yeah,
And you were great in that episode. And Jim's reaction was amazing when you come in the kitchen, you're all
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're dressed up and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, I had come up dressed, and he had saw me in the Elmer Fudd outfit already. He said, "How you gonna make me laugh tomorrow?" So I went to the prop guy, and I said, "Hey, man, you got any by any chance you got a dildo?" And he had about 20 dildos. Don't ask me why. All sizes and shapes and colors. So I got like a big 3 foot one, looked like a giant Italian bread. And I came around that corner, twirled it around. Nobody knew. Not Steve Buscemi, the director. No one. You could almost see Uncle Junior crack. You could almost see him smile if you look close. Uh,
Absolutely.
you know, and that's what Jim was laughing at in that scene. So I didn't tell anyone, not a soul. I just got it. I said maybe that'll make them laugh. I mean, you got the Elmer Fudd outfit, mittens. You
His response and also, Junior's response to it, because you could see he almost broke.
know, almost
And when
broke.
and what's awesome is that you didn't. You came in proud. You came in like, here I am.
Yeah,
And you're like, I don't have to take this shit.
very
That's what I
funny.
always
That
liked
was
about.
early in the morning. That was like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's what I always liked about Bobby Bacala's character is that you didn't take any shit. You always gave it back to Tony. You always gave it back to everybody. Like if you look
yeah,
at
yeah. He wasn't a pushover. He
no,
was a nice guy and a gentle guy, but he
right.
wasn't a pushover. Right from when you see Bobby the first time, and you know what? I kind of had forgotten about it. But when he's in the pork store, that was the first scene I ever shot on the show. When you see Bobby for the first time, that's the first scene that I did, and Tony's ripping him a new ass, and he goes, "Hey, I've always liked you. There's no need to talk to me that way."
Yeah, I
Bobby
adopted
stood up for
Junior.
himself. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what he stood up for himself. He said, which cultivates at the end. Bobby didn't give a fuck that he was the boss. They have this drunken fight in the house. Uh, that was almost for sure would have been death. Maybe if he
and
wasn't his brother-in-law.
I
But
love that scene because you also say I inherited Junior. You have no reason to talk to me this way.
yeah,
You know?
what it was Bobby's father, played by Burt, the great Burt Young.
Oh yeah.
Bobby Bacala Sr., he used to take care of Junior. Then he kind of moved to Florida and I know there's a scene down the line where uh, I said, my father's retired. He can't do this. And Junior says, what are we in the fucking Navy?
That's right. Yeah. Junior always had the greatest like
The best
comebacks.
lines. The best lines. What are we in the fucking Navy? Somebody asked him a question. What am I, a Swami?
So great, man. So, I see that you're a big dog lover. Tell me about your dog, Willie Boy.
Oh, Willie boy. Well, we've had a bunch of Dachshunds. This is our one, two. We had two that lived 15, 16, 17 years, and they
Wow.
died last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, which is really sad when you have the dog. And then we took my wife's father couldn't take care of his dog anymore, so we took him over, and he passed away. So we were dogless for a few months, and we got Willie Boy. He was born in California, in Santa Clarita. He was born there. He's a stubborn. I swear he understands every word I say. I swear he does. But he's a smart, good dog. He likes. I'm in California. I live here half the time when I'm out shooting, and he loves. He's got a backyard. He loves the sun. He loves the beach. So he's a good boy. He's only a year old.
Wow.
Yeah, he's big, but he's only a year old. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a rescue Chihuahua about 6 years ago, and she's my pride and joy. She's the love of my life, man.
Great,
That's my
great.
best friend. It's so good. It's so good. So, speaking about good things, what kind of music do you enjoy? What do you listen to?
I listen to Allman Brothers, big Allman Brothers fan. Van Morrison, Billy Joel,
Oh yeah.
Paul Simon. Trying to think. I just put a bunch of stuff on my wife did. My iPod. I don't. I still have a flip phone.
I was just like, that's why I'm laughing. I'm like, that's
got it.
awesome. That's throwback. Oh yeah, look at that thing.
Yeah. But they put it on there for me. What do I like? Van Morrison, Billy Joel. I like Leonard Cohen. I like Chicago. I like the Talking Heads.
Chicago's great. I tell you what, Billy Joel is probably in my top concerts I've ever seen.
Yeah, great.
He was so I seen him at the Garden a couple times. Man, he was wonderful.
Well, he before this pandemic, he had played. I don't know how many sold out shows at the Garden. He happens to be a really good guy. I've met him 2 or 3 times. A really good guy, and the music goes on, and he's sold out. I think 40, 50 shows. I mean,
Yeah, he had residency in Madison Square Garden. How big is that, right?
And then I saw him at the Borgata right after the Sopranos ended, 2007, and he did a show. Maybe 1,000 people, 1,500 people, very small, kind of an invited guest only. And he wanted to say hello, and we went backstage before the show, and then I saw him at Howard Stern's wedding. I used to work with Howard's wife, Beth. We had a show together for 3 years on Spike TV, and he was at the wedding. So I like Billy. I haven't seen him in quite a while.
That's amazing, man. Speaking about Madison Square Garden, it's got me thinking about the Billy Joel concert. Basketball is huge at the Garden. You're a basketball guy, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I know that you're a pretty good player. What are some of the other sports that you enjoy?
I like baseball. I like the Yankees. I'm not a football guy. I used to play basketball before you got to Vegas. UNLV basketball was the biggest thing. They were like basically like pros. They had great teams in the 70s and obviously in the early 90s. And all those guys, where Sapphire's, the strip club is, behind the strip on Industrial Road used to be a gym called the Sporting House. And that's where everybody played. They had a basketball court. They had a pool. It was for its time, it was a very high-end club. All the bosses from the casinos and celebrities were there. And they were some of the best games ever. I mean, all these UNLV guys, great players would play there for years. And I was a member there for years and years, and we played. Even Governor Miller at the time, he was the governor, Bob Miller, he played, and attorneys and casino bosses. It was quite amazing, a mixture of everybody. I like the Yankees. I go to a lot of Yankee games. I used to go to a lot of in Vegas. They used to be the Las Vegas Stars years ago. It was the AAA team for the Padres. Then they played downtown in Cashman Field. Now they moved to the west side. They're the Oakland A's single A. Don Logan still runs it. We used to go to a lot of those games, you know.
Yeah, I saw you post something yesterday, I believe, on Twitter, where you were at Yankee Stadium and you were swinging a baseball bat.
And
You hit it very far.
I
but
was never good. I was never a
it didn't
good
look
baseball
good.
player. I was a way better basketball player. I played in college for 4 years. I was a way better basketball player, but I played in a charity softball game. I popped up to third. I stopped playing when I was younger. I was a good baseball player, little league. At some point, I got afraid of the ball, and I stopped playing probably when I was 15 or 16. And I still suck as a softball player, but it was for a good cause. And how many chances do you get to play in Yankee Stadium? You know,
Amazing. And at least you put your back into it, because I just started golfing recently, and my sport was always boxing, baseball, things where you hit really hard.
yeah.
And golf, you can't do that. But it's funny because I relate it to when I saw your video when you were hitting that baseball. You just went for it. Just no fucks given.
I'm not, you can only do what you can do. I thought I put it up, but I said I was a much better basketball player.
Right.
Not my thing, but you play in Yankee Stadium, you're in the dugouts. The dugouts are air conditioned. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then we threw out the first pitch in 2002 at Yankee Stadium. 5 of us: myself, Jim Gandolfini, Lorraine Bracco, Artie Bucco, John Ventimiglia, and Paulie Walnuts. We threw out the first pitch. That was fun. And then Jamie Lynn Sigler Meadows sang the national anthem. That was fun.
I remember that. That's incredible.
That was a good day.
That's incredible. Let me ask you something. When you transitioned from being a booking agent out here for comics and at the Riviera in Vegas, we were talking about earlier, what got you into acting?
I worked with a lot of comics at the Riv, and one of the comics, his name was Bruce Baum. He said, I'm filming this little sketch. Would you come out to L.A. and do this thing? And I went. He said, it's on a golf course. I wrote a funny thing, and he gave it to me. I read it. It was the first time I ever read anything like that. And I went, sure, maybe it'll be fun. So I went out and did it. And I know it sounds like bullshit, but I literally was sky high on the plane ride back. I want to say that we did it maybe on a Saturday or a Sunday. And I was sky high. I mean, it's almost like I immediately got the bug. I don't know what it was I liked about it. And then the casting person saw me in that and put me in these other little sketches. I was brand new. I didn't even know what I was doing, and then Kevin Pollak, who's a comic, he put me in his thing. I played his bodyguard, little bit shit. I did a whole bunch of little crappy stuff. And then I started taking some classes. There was a casting director, teacher, who is a dear friend. He still lives in Vegas, called Ray Favero. And he helped me a lot. And he would come up to my office at the Riviera, and I would close the door, and he would kind of coach me. And he was a huge help to me. And whenever something came to town, Chicago, Hope, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I would audition for. And I got a few of them. Casino, I'm barely in it, but I auditioned for De Niro and Scorsese, and I got my SAG card that way. So it was just little bit stuff, and it was just a hobby. For me, it was fun. I didn't say, well, someday I'm going to be an actor or I'm going to do this. It wasn't a dream. It was just, it kind of happened,
A question I have for you is that Bobby Bacala on the show has a love affair with trains.
Yeah.
And it's very random. Was that something that you're really into, or was that just scripted? Wow.
I don't know anything about trains.
I love the detail.
I have the choo-choo hat. I'll wear it on the podcast at the appropriate time.
I love the detail that David Chase put in, like the little things that make a character a character.
Oh yeah.
And when Tony came in, when he got shot by Uncle Junior, I think it was episode 1 of season 6, like you take it off because you feel like all bad about it. So I think the little details about the
Well,
Sopranos.
that's what made the show so great. It's all
Yeah.
that little stuff, but nothing was by accident. If the script said you got to eat, you're eating ziti at the table, it was for a reason. If they say you're eating cookies, fig Newtons, there's a reason for that. What that is, I don't know, but nothing happened by accident.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to ask you a question after this, is that Sopranos home movies is my favorite episode. One of my favorite. Pine Barrens, Sopranos home movies, and I think a hit is a hit. That episode, you and James went through a lot in that, with emotion and having fun and then fighting. What was that like to film that? That was an amazing episode.
We shot. So we went upstate. It was the 4 of us. One of the few times we ever rehearsed. We rehearsed the 4 of us at the studio with David Chase. And then we went upstate. It was the 4 of us. And we were there for basically 2 weeks. I think I came home on the weekend. We weren't that far upstate, but and we shot up there on the lake. And when we went to do the fight scene, Jim said, we were all ready to go shoot it. And he said, my knees got operated on. It won't be good. He wasn't moving good. So 6 months later, now this was in July, 6 months later, they rebuilt that set of the lake house. They rebuilt it in the studio in Long Island City in New York, $250,000. And when I walked in, it was like you were back in the lake house. It was very strange and eerie, It was to the T. And this was in January now. And so there was a choreographer, stuntman, because, everything's kind of planned for the most part. And, Jim said, listen, let's go as far as we can. We're good friends. Let's go as far as we can with this and make it look real. And that's what you saw. 98% of it is me and him. I think there's a stunt guy in there when he falls into the game at the end. But for the most part, it was me and him. It took us a day and a half. I was extremely sore the next day. I mean, I could barely move. I mean, Jim was a big, strong guy, way stronger than me. He was choking me. I was pulling his hair. We wanted it to look like 2 fat, out of shape guys fighting. It's not all, like Steven Seagal, right? You ever see him in his movies? Like, he hits, waits for the other guy, hits. This was 2 guys grabbing and pulling, and I thought it came out pretty good. I mean, I don't like watching myself, but I thought it was good. The Monopoly game and the other stuff was done upstate. All that other stuff was all done on the lake and at the party and the game. And, it took a long time, the Monopoly game. There's a lot going on with it,
Free parking. I like when you break down that whole thing. He's like, the Parker brothers, took their time to make the rules. Because Bobby Bacala was always about, decency and honesty, but he didn't take no shit. And that's what I loved about the character. And what an amazing episode. Like, one of the standouts to me. There's so many great ones, obviously, but that was a big standout. So what's your favorite scene that you were involved in? Let me ask you that question.
Well, obviously that one.
Okay.
And I also like that whole thing. I mean, this was the first episode of the last 9. And, they gave me so much to do. I was kind of proud of that. I mean, you got Jim and Edie are Emmy winners, and Aida's been nominated a few times. And I remember even then, after working being on the show for 7 years, I'm going, this is pretty fucking cool here. I mean, look, I'm with three incredible actors and me. And, you know, that was, all that stuff upstate. The Pine Barrens, they gave me something early on. That was a lot. Season 3, I believe that is, if I'm not mistaken.
Season 3, correct? Yep, season 3.
Bobby goes and helps Tony find them out in the woods. That's one of the greatest episodes of TV ever.
Exactly. When Paulie loses his shoe,
it's very funny. It's very
funny.
Everything. I like the Santa Claus stuff. They gave me that. The stuff with my dad. As it went on, they gave me more and more stuff, and obviously, I was able to handle it. I worked very hard. I've worked with an acting coach from the beginning. I still do now, one-on-one, but I worked with an acting coach. I would go to his apartment sometimes, and we would work on the scene, and then I would go right to the set and do it. So I worked very hard at it.
I believe that. And when you said you went right to the set and done it, I could see that because there's a lot of genuism. Like when you play Bobby Bacala, you could see that it's very just like in the moment. And it's not overdone. It's not over rehearsed. And sometimes purism. No. Yeah.
And, and listen, when you're working with great actors like this, and the writing is so good, believe me, the writing has a lot to do with it. When you're doing something and it's shitty and you read something, you go, how the hell am I going to make this sound? How am I going to make this sound real? And, a lot of time it's the material. And obviously this was incredible material. But I work very hard, and I still do. I've been on Blue Bloods for 5 years. I've done 76 episodes. I've only did 53 Sopranos. I work very hard at it. You can't half-ass it. I can't anyway. Maybe some people could walk through it, but I have to put the work in.
Oh, I'm the same way with my craft as a drummer, musician. Now more recently, doing radio shows and stuff like that. And I was actually going to ask you, what TV and film shows are you, very proud of that you'd like to share with the audience?
What, that I've been on?
That you've been on, yes.
One of my favorite things I ever did was Columbo with Peter Falk. Peter Falk was my mother's favorite actor, and I got a role with him. The last Columbo. I don't know if you're familiar with Columbo. Columbo.
Of course I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Columbo. I was in the last one, in the last scene of the last one with the great Peter Falk. And I loved working with him. That was a big deal for me. I enjoyed that, and I became friendly with him. I worked for Clint Eastwood. I loved that. In the movie Hereafter, I worked with him twice. He was great. I enjoyed every moment of that. The Jersey Boys, I had just a tiny role. I was up for the Christopher Walken role. They gave it, then they threw me like a bone, but I wasn't going to say no to Clint. I liked him very much. I wound up going out to dinner with him in New York. I got cast as a chef in Hereafter, which is a very underrated movie. I enjoyed that a lot. I was on a show called Secret Life of the American Teenager for 5 years. I loved that show. That was right after The Sopranos, and Brenda Hampton, who created that, was just a fantastic writer. And Shailene Woodley became a big star. She was 16. Molly Ringwald, and I enjoyed that a lot. I love Blue Bloods. 5 years, Donnie Wahlberg and Tom Selleck and Bridget Moynihan. The writing's great. The whole cast and crew. You shoot on the streets of New York. That's a lot of fun. I enjoy that. There hasn't been that many jobs that I didn't like. I've turned down a bunch of stuff because there's a lot of shitty stuff you're offered. There hasn't been that many things where I could say, I'm embarrassed by that and I hated that. Luckily, I didn't need the money. A lot of times you got to do stuff. You need the money. You got to do stuff you don't want to do. But I've been very lucky in that department. So, I'm pretty proud of mostly everything. Not everything, but mostly everything.
So I'm gonna leave you with this one. This last question here. The Sopranos makes people want to eat. Whenever you watch that show, you want to go to your kitchen. You want to go to a restaurant. So I heard the catering on the set of that show was amazing. What was your favorite food that you had while being on the set?
Oh shit! Every day they had. First of all, the catering was fantastic, right? And then every day, at some point, every single day, they came out with Italian bread, provolone, mozzarella, salami, every single day. Uh, the food that you ate, because I really ate on the show, as I do on Blue Bloods. I really eat. I'm not one of them guys. Sometimes you do it and you spit it out and all that. I'm going to eat it. I want to make it look real. I mean, so they'll call you up and they'll say, "Listen, in this scene, you're eating blah blah blah. Are you okay with that?" Yeah, I'm fine. What do you want? What do you want to drink? Because you're drinking, I would say Diet Coke or Manhattan Special. I don't know if you're familiar with Manhattan Special, Italian espresso soda. I've been drinking since I'm a kid. So, uh, the food was good. They got it from real restaurants. This wasn't whipped up in the back, where they're on a hot plate. This was some great Italian restaurants. I ate chicken one time, me and Jim, starting 7 o'clock in the morning in a scene with Robert Loggia and Dominic Chianese. We ate chicken for 7 hours. After a while, I think Jim was clucking. He ate so much chicken. At first, you're going, holy shit, I'm hungry. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. I could eat chicken cacciatore. And then after a while, you're going, what the fuck was I thinking about? In the scene, the Nostradamus scene, I ate 6 ribeye steaks. No lie. 6 ribeye steaks. I didn't eat
Shit.
meat. I didn't eat meat for months afterwards. It was a big scene. They gave me this incredible Nostradamus, and he predicted all this, and blah blah blah. It was a great scene with me.
Didn't you call him Notre Dame?
Yeah, Nostradamus, Notre Dame. So Quasimodo predicted all this. That's what it was. Quasimodo basically
Great,
says,
great scene. Great scene.
yeah. Quasimodo, no, Nostradamus. You mean Nostradamus? Yeah, coincidence, Notre Dame, Nostradamus. Very funny, well written scene with the star of the show. I'm eating the steak. We're in a diner. I'm in character, and my wife will say, "What the fuck did you eat? You ate all those steaks? You had to eat that?" Trying to make it look real. That's my excuse. But it tastes good for a little bit. Then after a while, it's like, you know,
Oh, of
like even on
course.
Blue Bloods, you'll say, "I'm eating a sandwich. What kind of sandwich?" So they'll get the sandwich from the best sandwich place, the kind I want, turkey or whatever that fucking is. Then after a while, it's like, or pastrami sandwich. How much could you eat of that?
You got me thinking about an episode that Michael Imperioli wrote, Marco Polo, which was an amazing episode of The Sopranos. Another great one.
Yeah, I
where,
don't.
where food has a big thing to do with it. When Tony comes in with the sausage over here, he got it over his neck, and just that entire show. I mean, start to finish. We just did a rewatch over here, and my girlfriend had now just seen it for the first time in its entirety. She's like, "This show is really good." I'm like, "Hell yeah!"
Yeah.
I mean, season 1 through 6, it's so
It's
brilliant.
probably the greatest show. I mean, if not, it's certainly one of the best shows in TV history, which I'm very proud to be a part. But it's all those little things, like you said. Tony got this, so you don't see that anywhere else.
Mm-mm.
The little tiny things, the little things he says. Listen, I'm not up to. I am literally up to season 2, episode 7. So
Okay.
when somebody says like what you're saying, I've seen it, but I don't remember Marco Polo. I know like just what I know now.
Right. I tell you what, though, you're in a great season because, spoiler alert for people that are listening right now, when you get to that last one of season 2,
Yeah,
that is another great one.
sure, it's great.
Oh,
The
Big
thing
Buddy.
is,
Oh, man.
You know, the thing is too with the spoilers, the show's off the air 13 fucking years. There's almost so people go,
Right.
please, you know, so people will tweet out, please, there's a spoiler. Listen, if you haven't seen the show, don't listen to our podcast because we talk about
Right.
shit that happened. We go back and forth. So it's not the podcast for you. Wait until you're finished and come back to it, you know.
Vinny's acting in that last episode of season
Yeah,
2.
it's great. Vinny was so
Oh
good.
shit.
All the acting was so incredible. Like I said, you had to pick up your game. You couldn't go in there and dog it or slack it, you know. Uh, uh, Paulie Walnuts, Dominic is great, the entire thing. I mean, Michael as Christopher, just fantastic, you know.
It was a
And,
perfect combination.
and the show gets better, I think. As much as I love the first season, I enjoy as you see more characters coming.
Of
Season
course.
2, season 3, season 4. It gets
Ralphie,
very
yeah, all those guys
complicated.
come in.
Ralphie comes in. You know, you have the villains, right? Ralphie and Richie Aprile, and then it's going to be Tony Blundetto. You know, slowly they come. You know,
And Frank Vincent was
Frank
incredible.
Vincent becomes one. You know,
Incredible. He was so good. But I'm going to let you go, brother. I really appreciate your time here today. What are you up to this weekend?
I do the same thing every day, brother. It's like Groundhog Day. You see that movie?
That's what I say to everybody.
I go for my walk. We'll cook later. We'll grill. That's it.
What are you going to grill tonight?
I got some filet mignons. My wife doesn't eat meat. But I have a couple, and you know, my wife cooks mostly. I do once in a while. Last night I throw some chicken thighs on the bread, some hot dogs, some good hot dog. I'm a hot dog guy, so we do that.
What kind of hot dogs you got? I like the Thumans from back home in Jersey. I can't get them out here. I'm
A
pissed.
guy sent me two hot dogs. A guy Feltman's, Feltmans. You
Okay.
can buy them in the store. They claim, and I don't know if it's true, that they invented the hot dog in Coney Island. They were there when Nathan's was there, and I got to tell you, he sent me a few packs, and they're out of this world. Then
No shit.
a company called Frippers, Frippers. He sent me some. I don't know where they're from, not back east. Great. 2 great hot dogs that I never had. Put them on the grill. They're fantastic.
Okay, so before I let you go, let's let everyone know where they can find the Talking Sopranos podcast, which is a great podcast. Your Twitters, your Instagrams.
Talking Sopranos, you catch it on YouTube. Subscribe if you would. Apple, Spotify, all the, you know, wherever you get your podcasts. And I think my Twitter is at Steven Schirripa. I don't know. Instagram, find me out there. It's probably Steven Schirripa. So you can go to talkingsopranos.com. If you ask a question and we pick your question on the air, you get a Bose headset, one of our sponsors. So, yeah, we've gotten thousands and thousands and thousands of questions, so many, but maybe we'll get to a lot of them someday. But every week, there's some good ones, some really good ones, some we haven't heard before. So,
yeah, I love how great the podcast is doing, the reception, and it's the perfect time right now for that sort of thing. And you guys are what I love. Again, I started the show with this. I'm going to bookend the show with this. The honesty, you know, the humor, the stories, the insight, like you and Michael play off each other so well.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. Like, you know,
yeah, thank
Michael,
you. You know, we got better. It took a while.
it takes a while to get this down.
I
Yeah.
think about, you know, especially since we're not in the same room together. You talk over each other. I think it takes a good 4 or 5 episodes in, we get much better. I think we're hitting our stride. We kind of know what we're doing. You know, the show is about our lives, and we run down the episode scene by scene. Sometimes we talk about music and, like I said, all kinds of other stuff. And certain scumbags like Pat Cooper, who lives in Vegas.
Here we go. I love when you guys fall off the rails a little bit, but it's so interesting. And your guys are so honest. And like you said before, it's like two guys sitting at a diner or a restaurant or a bar. Fuck yeah. That's the way I do shit too. You know?
We're talking, we're not, out there to, if it's, within the story, something pops up. I mean, a lot of times we're just talking and I say, oh yeah, by the way, like the other day we're talking, there was a scene about pizza. I forgot. I said, I used to deliver pizza on Bonanza and Easton. That was my first job when I came to Vegas. I worked at Villa Pizza. I used to deliver. That neighborhood's not the greatest anymore though, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple out here, especially nowadays. Shit, you got to be really careful.
Well, so I delivered there back in 1980, and then that jogged my memory. I went, I used to deliver pizza. I was telling him a story. A guy who didn't tip me. He was a prick, always yelling on the phone, and he lived kind of far, out near the Air Force Base. It's a long drive. The guy didn't give me $1, not $1. Yeah, you better fucking pizza better be cold. He was yelling at me on the phone. I went to my boss. He said, I went to the owner. He said, hey, you deliver it anyway. So the guy came in one time and he ordered a calzone. I told the counter guy, I said, I'll do it. I happen to be there. I made the calzone. I deep fried it. I fucking put it over the garbage pail and I pissed all over it. And I watched them fucking eat it. And that was my tip. That was my tip. I got fucking satisfaction.
This is exactly why I love you so much, brother. Like, I'm dying over here. Yeah. That is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
Take care, buddy.
And Steve, I thank you so much.
Take care. Good luck. Good luck.
Yep,
nice
you as well. And best wishes to your family and your dog and everybody out there, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, man.
Thanks, buddy.